Push podcast. This is my 300th episode, which is just insane to me that I've been silly and crazy enough to continue this thing twice a week for the last 2.5 years. And I was just saying to our guest today, which most people have noticed, I did try to keep it a secret as long as possible because she's a very busy lady, and I just try to slide into her schedule for like half hour, 45 minutes because it's just insane the stuff that she does. And so I was really nervous. I was talking to Monica off screen, and I was very nervous about this one because I met Monica almost a decade ago in Cognac, and since then she has just not just done well for herself. She's revolutionized the industry. She's 2019's bartender for World's 50 Best. I'm just fixing a few of my little things as I always do on the show. She's the co-owner of Tayer Elementary, which opened in 2019, which we're going to get into, especially with the pandemic. Co-founder of Muse Liqueurs, co-founded the Porb Symposium and Backer House, which is a really fantastic initiative that I researched this morning and didn't even know about it. It was amazing. And then Drinks International's most influential person for the last 2 years, I believe. I'm giddy. I can't even tell you how giddy I am right now. To introduce Monica Berg.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for making time. Like, I know that Tayer Elementary just reopened for the first time in 10 months, and you've stayed relatively busy during the pandemic with T&E as well, with like doing to-go cocktails, and you've done a lot of stuff like that with, I don't want to say the pivot word, but you did like a good little like, okay, well, how are we going to get through this?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think that like many others, we just didn't have a choice because for various reasons, but basically throughout the whole lockdown, if you look in the last 18 months, we've more or less been closed for 12 months, but we've still been expected to pay full rent, all of the costs and everything. So we just had to figure out a way to, minimize the loss and try to survive. And we were halfway through now, I would say, but it's looking better than it did before.
From a London perspective, I know that I've talked to a lot of people in the industry, consultants, and also all over the world. What was the reasoning to have you shut down for that long? Because it's not like you're a nightclub or a pub which is going to be packed out onto the street and stuff. You're a high-end venue that literally caters to a small amount of people per time, because that's the sort of experience you want to do. So what was the reasoning behind all of it?
I think shutting down hospitality is a very kind of symbolic thing for governments to do, because it has a lot of visual impact. You see it, people feel it, but not necessarily. So it's one of those things that you can do to show that you're doing something, and it will affect regular people less because they can just eat at home, they can order deliveries, because there will always be those things. But for the industry itself, it has these like horrific results, because our industry is already quite fragile and under a lot of pressure. So it was definitely something that perhaps weren't the right decision if you are to follow the data, follow the statistics, follow the numbers, like the politicians asked us to do. Because you saw that at least in UK, there was never a time where the infection rate in the hospitality industry was above like 2% of the total cases, whereas offices had 40-50%.
Yeah.
So it's also just shows how little regard and understanding politicians have for this industry, despite it being the third largest employer and also one of the biggest contributors to the economy. So
I've had this long conversation with a lot of people about that misunderstanding, because they don't look at the data the way that we do, because we've got so many like part-time employers, and you've got the 17-year-old kid or the 18-year-old kid going through university as a dishwasher who only comes in for 4 hours on a Friday, Saturday night, and that's still an employee. That's someone that gets impacted by all this, and they don't really understand the casual. That's always who are the 40-hour-a-week workers, because that's how their brains work. It's not exactly the same for us.
No, exactly. Exactly.
So let's take it all the way back, because you're from Norway. I like I said in the intro, I met you in 2012 at the Javine GCP, which was I think my last year before it got finished up. Which is just an insane competition in cognac for 5 days, and the grand tasting is just the grand tasting was just a lot, because I remember the year I think you competed, we didn't have a glass washer, and I had like three very young children, young kids who didn't speak any English, and I don't speak any French, trying to wash glassware fast enough that we could keep replenishing the floor. And I remember just sitting down and having a bowl of champagne at the end of the night, going, "What did I get myself into?" But since then, you were working at Aquavite. What's your origin story? How did you get into bartending? How did you make this trend over? Because I know I'm just curious at what drew you to this industry to start with.
I mean, I feel my first job in hospitality was when I was 15. So that was obviously not alcohol related. I was selling ice cream, but it's I've always enjoyed this industry and I've always loved being part of it because I like being around people and I like uh, perhaps I love making drinks obviously, but I love seeing people happy and seeing people enjoying themselves and knowing that if I do a good job, then they won't even most of the time notice that I'm there, but they will have a great night. And you can give someone who's had a bad day a great evening, or you can, be part of people's life in a way that very few other professions can. And I definitely love working with flavor. I always, when I was younger, I wanted to be a chef or a perfumer. So it's always been in this kind of area. But I'm definitely not cut up for being a chef, and I do love the social side of our business. So this is what kind of has always been my driving force, and yeah. So I really enjoy being in service. I feel like every day I fight through my emails, and that's the reward at the end is being in service.
So, what was Norway's cocktail culture like when you started getting into the cocktail side of things?
I think it was very like in the early stages, even though there were cocktail bars when I was younger or coming up as a bartender that were very good at what they were doing and having like really distinctive styles and really following perhaps at that time more the New York scene and the American scene than anything in Europe, but it was a few. And then the majority is more like weekend drinking, kind of. I'm not gonna say binge drinking, but a little bit. But it's Norway is famous for being one of the most expensive markets, I would say, when it comes to alcohol, and it's also a black market. So it's there's no there's no advertising, there's no way
Mm,
of kind of informing people unless they go out about brands and stuff like this. So people are very set in their habits, and most people they would not drink during the week and then go out Friday, Saturday.
and just hit it hard on Friday and Saturday.
Yes. I mean, I remember back in the days when I used to work nightclubs, and it was literally, you know, at midnight, it was maybe 15 people inside, and at quarter past midnight, you had 500 people all ready to spend all of their money. And and because bars and nightclubs, they close at 3 a.m. in Norway, you had 2.5 hours to make that rent and
Yeah.
make all the money. So it was quite intense.
So even back then,
Time to wake up.
you've had an entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah, you're gonna see this actual sunrise coming behind me in the window here because it is 7 a.m. here. You've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, because I know that when we were talking when years ago, you were making your own akavit and sort of creating and playing around with these flavors of. I know that you did a lot of inspired akavits, and I love akavit. I love akavit a lot. And you know that. I know that only Norway makes akavit. All the other Scandinavian countries only make a spirit that they think they can call akavit. I believe is somewhere along the lines of what you told me once.
Well, I mean, probably I was a little bit sarcastic, but but yeah, no, it is the national spirit of the Nordics, I would say, and it's it's very similar to gin, but it
Mhm.
has this kind of a bit warmer spices and botanicals, and caraway, obviously, and dill being the kind of predominant ones that you have to use. And yeah, I feel I've always been very fond of these kind of agricultural products where you can kind of see a bit more in the wider context of why they were created and why they were so important, because it's the same like mezcal or tequila is in Mexico, or you have grappa in Italy, you have gin here in the UK, you have aquavit in the Nordics, and it's just becomes, if you look at drinking much more like or if you look at the ecology of drinking and you look at the position in society, that's also relating back to the pandemic, why people were missing so much going to bars. It's not just because of drinking, it's because of the social aspects,
Mhm.
it's because of the traditions, it's because of everything that it symbolizes. Because if you take away these things, then what are we doing? We are just sitting at home, watching Netflix, which is fine sometimes as well, but sometimes it's nice to see actual people and share a drink. And for me, aquavit was always something that I was very proud of, but also I think it's so underestimated from a flavor perspective when it comes to mixing cocktails, because if you move away from the thinking that a cocktail or a drink has to have only one base spirit and that's it, and then you add on the other layers. But what if you do a split base, or what if you do other spirits, like for example aquavit or mezcal or something like this, just in the small touches as seasoning? You just build complexity, and you build in the same way that you do when you create dishes, or you create stocks, or you create wines. Why are so many of the great wines blends? So it's so, yeah, I love aquavit.
I, I've got a cocktail on the menu right now at Clive's that's akavit and Canadian rye whiskey. So it's got a
Nice.
very like Icelandic rye bread, like a nice caraway, like volcanic bread sort of feel to it. But I do agree with you. So with this, you moved to London in 2012, 2013 and
Yeah.
start creating and start building your career there. Was the move to London because you were so successful in Norway? Did it just get to a stage where you're like, if I need to take my career to the next stage, I'm gonna have to move to like a London or a Milan or something, a bigger market?
If I'm completely honest, the move to London had nothing to do with career or anything. I was perfectly happy in Oslo. I was perfectly like happy to be there. But I've always said that if I had to choose between love and my career, I would choose love. So I moved to London because this is where Alex was, or is still, because he's still here. But yeah, no. So I moved here because. Um, well, I fell in love and I wanted to be with Alex, and then that's it.
And so once you hit London, Alex and yourself have done a lot of stuff together. You did Muyu liqueurs with Simone and Alex, and so what sort of was the like what happened? Trying to word my stuff here. I'm all getting tongue tied. What was the driving force behind the Pour Symposium?
Um, Poor was at the time we felt that there was uh, uh, okay. At the time, we felt that there was a very kind of usual suspects and the same thing happening all over and over again at most of the trade shows, and we just questioned um, how come nobody is talking about all of these important stuff, like how you pay people, equality, discrimination, or how like nobody is talking about the sourcing link, like from how we buy our products, or the gender gap, or all of these things. And kind of what people would say to us was, that doesn't really sell cases, so we don't really want to get into that. So we just thought, as bartenders, it's kind of our own responsibility to educate ourselves. So if you want to have some change, and if you want to disrupt the situation, then maybe we need to put our mouth where our money is. Oh, that's not the expression. Our money where our mouth
with the mouth is.
Yes, it was the other way. So we actually, if you want something done, then you just have to do it yourself, and you have to, really believe in, or like trust your instinct and do what you believe in, and hope for the best. So this was more the beginning of Porb, and we just wanted to have a different platform where people could discuss these things and they could say them without having any consequences, because we set it up as a charity, so there is no money to be made here anyway. There's no consequence. You can literally go on stage and you can say exactly what you want. There's no one who's going to say anything against it. And we just wanted to start conversations about all of these things, because I think in the long run, a lot of the times the important conversations are the ones that we need to have, are not going to be easy. They're not going to be pleasant. But if you don't have them, then how can you change anything? Because there's a lot of, things that needs to be said that you think shouldn't have to be said. You would think that people know this from within, but they don't always. So you have to say it out loud. And one of the things that we wanted to do was to, not criticize people, but showcase the problems in a different light. So rather than have speakers from the industry most of the time, we would find people from outside of our industry to show that this is not only something that happens in drinks world, it happens everywhere, and this is how other industries or other people have solved it or tried to solve it. And then people can take away what they want to take away, and try to use that as inspiration for creating the practices that they want in their bars.
Yeah, as an industry, we're still very we still hold our cards close to our chest, whether it be personally or professionally. Like, you talk to a lot of people and like, also, how's the business? Is it healthy? Are you making bottom line? Is the staff happy? Is your culture good? And they're like, yes. It's always just like, yeah, it's fine. Let's go have a drink. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're at shows and stuff like that. So
exactly.
You opened up Tayer Elementary. For everybody listening, tell us about Tayer Elementary.
All right. Well, Tayer Elementary is 2 bars in one, only separated by design. It is essentially, if you have to distill it completely down, it is Alex and mine dream bars. It is the bars that we want to go to when we go out. So yes, it's a bit selfish that way. But in the front we have Elementary, which is our take on a neighborhood bar. As the name indicates, anything that is not needed, anything that is not elementary for running a bar is kind of taken away. And it focuses on drinks, beers, wines. We put equally amount of effort into everything because we want everyone to come and find something that they are excited about. And then it's nice bar food, snacks, and really fast but friendly service. Most of the drinks are either on draft or tap, or batched and stored behind, so you only pour. So there's no shakers, there's no mixing glasses, there's nothing.
Oh.
We kind of take pride in the fact that from most of the time from you order your drink till you have it in front of you is 15 seconds. So
wow.
The ice is pre-cut, everything. So it's really just focusing on being social, being having groups, everyone having fun. Yeah. So, and then Tayer, which is where I'm here, it's a little bit more kind of not advanced, that's the wrong word, more kind of adventurous, more focused, more exploring, ingredients and produce, and really rethinking or questioning what a drink can be. You see the station here, which is kind of loosely inspired by a kitchen station, but also designed using the hexagon as a kind of main feature. But here you have the bar around all the counter around here, so you sit, and here the drinks are obviously finished to order, like a classic bar. But we just wanted to really push the boundaries of what you can do with drinks.
And when we start talking about these crazy techniques, because I'll link up some videos to this, because like the hexagon, that your hexagon workstation is just the most insanely thought out, like amazing. Like when I saw you like putting it together and flipping the hexagons, I'm like, this is genius. Like, how has no one done this before? And you got flat stations, and it's just awesome. Where do these techniques come from? Like, I know there's a lot of modernist techniques out there. The internet obviously is always pumping out information and stuff, but on a personal level and with your team, how do you tweak this? Is there a lot of R&D, or have you got to a stage where you're like, you know what, I know that X plus Y is going to equal Z?
It's both. I think it's definitely, we are someone who enjoys working very systematically. I think a lot of people are very shocked when they come and see to what degree. And our recipes definitely are very detailed. They sometimes go down to a gram or like 1.25 mils. So, but we like working smart, not necessarily working hard, even though I feel like we do both right now. But yes, we do find certain templates that works for us, and then we let our drinks kind of sit within that, like an ingredients. Like, for example, if we work very seasonally, so let's see, a few weeks ago we got a really nice Sicilian mangoes in, and we taste it, we say, okay, this reminds me of this makes me think about this makes me feel that, this is where we're going. And then we just go for it, and then we use different types of technique to get to that point, and then we reassemble everything at the end. And we are very, in Tayer, we are less kind of focused on the classic way of making drinks, or the classics. We just go from a kind of flavor point of view, but we also use a lot of these very and I'm not going to say unsophisticated, but like a lot of these traditional techniques, like fermentations and macerations and infusions. And one of the biggest factors for a lot of prep is just time.
I watch your Instagram stories quite a bit, so I'm always seeing your prep and your pull down and stuff like that. And I think I read a quote that your final piece of that puzzle is, would you serve this to your mother? Is like the final, like, if it doesn't pass the mother test, then you don't get the drink on the menu.
No, and also, like, even if it's not even just a drink, it's just more the ethos behind that. Because I mean, this is obviously assuming that you like your mother, but for us, we do. So it's just that no shortcuts. Like, is this glass good enough for your mom? Then yes, go ahead. Is this ice good enough for your mom? Yes, go ahead. Is the orange slice that you dropped on the floor something you would serve your mom? No. So why would you serve it to someone else? Like, why would you do that? So it's just to keep everyone in touch. But yeah, it's definitely, because I think we all talk about how cocktails are becoming more and more mainstream, and I think that to a certain degree maybe is correct. But at the same time, if you truly want to democratize cocktails and drinking, then you have to kind of make it a little bit more accessible for the normal, regular person in the street. Because I think, for example, when I think about the conversations that I used to have with my mom, was she would never walk into a cocktail bar and try to order a drink, because she would feel so embarrassed by the questions that she would have to ask the bartender and how they would treat her. Like, this is more the kind of things that I feel we need to look at, the way that we talk to our guests, the way that we need to understand that, cocktail bartenders now are becoming so specialized in this field that we sometimes forget that someone walking in the door, they maybe have all of the money to spend, but they just need the guidance. But they are scared to ask for it because it's so easy to just forget that everything is new for everyone the first time you try it.
Yeah, I try to do I don't love the smoke and mirrors of like when you get into elevated bartending, like I understand you do the rotovap and the techniques and all this, but really at the end of the day, it's like once you know these systems and like you were saying, the systematic creation of drinks, it isn't necessarily that hard to replicate that and to apply it to different things. So why try and make it like the Wizard of Oz and you end up just being a dude pulling strings behind a curtain? Um, so I'm curious about business because you've obviously got so much stuff going on. You're always sort of like, where's my next little avenue to put some energy into? Do you go into business passion first, or do you go into it thinking about the money? Because I know that it's always in this industry, we're always very passion driven. Passion usually is what drives us, and we always sort of, the money is always sort of like in the back of the brain, but it's never the driving force because as industry people, we know it's a long tail ROI. How do you attack these new business opportunities that you go into?
I think, well, a little bit of both, I would say, because obviously I don't think there's any point in doing something if you don't feel excited about it, because then it's just going to be work, and passion is one thing, but passion is never going to be enough. You have to have dedication, you have to just have the discipline, to be honest, because a lot of the time when passion runs out, it's like 3 a.m. when you have to clean the toilet, but then you still have to clean the toilet, and that's where the kind of dedication comes in. But definitely needs to make sense, but it also needs to make money. So there's no point to do anything if you can't make money. At least at the very bare minimum, it needs to not lose your money. So I do like, now I realized that I do like the business side of things, because it's very challenging, and slowly I'm learning more, because in the beginning it was such, I mean, just opening this bar, it was just such a big thing that we had. I mean, looking back, we had kind of no idea what we were doing, and we were very lucky. The fact that, London is a very tight community, a very friendly bar community. So people are always very willing to help you, and I learned a long time ago that if you can get to a place where you are fine with asking for help, then people will help you, because people just need you to let them know that you need help, and they are always very willing to help you. It's just sometimes getting to that point can be a little bit difficult. But that said, we had very good advisors from, like, the three first people that we found or to help us was like a lawyer, obviously an accountant, and then just a broker for properties, because in London there's always available properties, but people like us, and by that I say first time operators that have no major backing, they don't get access to those places. And before we found this place, we were so close, and we almost signed with 11 other properties, and then we lost them in the kind of final steps, because someone came and said, hey, I'll give you more money, or hey, I want this, or hey, I'm much cooler than these people, so give it to me. But it's literally that's what happened. So it's very frustrating. So we had a lot of help.
From just to go on to that a little bit more, from the time that you sort of thought about Tayer Elementary to the time that you opened, what was the sort of overall time that it took from concept to opening?
The very early ideation and us kind of sitting around the dreaming was back in 2014-15, and then when we actively like, okay, let's go for it, it was I would say 2016.
Oh wow.
And then when we started, really pushing to go out and see venues was end of 2016, early 2017. We were looking at all these venues. The first time I came here, and I hated it, was in April 2017. And the only reason why I hated it was because the day before we lost the previous one that we were hoping to sign, just because they someone came and they put another 100,000 on top, and they said, we want this place, and we decided, okay, there's nothing we can do now. And then we came here, and then we signed the lease here in February 2018, and then we opened officially 1st of June 2019.
Wow.
So it takes forever, and the thing is, like, we never like to speak about things before they become reality, because we don't want to jinx it, because you're so scared all the time, because you don't want to lose this place as well. And it was really nerve-wracking as well, because when we were negotiating the heads of terms, we kind of agreed, and then the contract negotiations started, and we had to push the button on the design works and on all of the construction works before we actually signed the lease. And we were just like, this can be, I mean, we didn't know what to do, because it's like, if we push the button, it's essentially 100,000 we have to spend for all of this to happen. And then what if then it comes back and it says no? And then parallel with this whole thing was the fact that this is a special policy area. So we had a restaurant license when we got it. So we spent 11 and a half months and a lot of money getting it to become a bar license.
Wow.
So it was just a very nerve-wracking time, and it was very lucky. I learned why I kind of sometimes like living in London, because here it rains so much that you can walk on the street and you can be crying and nobody can even see it, because it's just so stressed, like, literally, honestly. Yeah.
So let's talk about work-life balance, because I know that, again, I watch your Instagram stories, and you were cleaning trash cans out on Saturday night and doing and the cleaning process you have there is just awesome. I'm a clean freak, so watching your staff scrub down everything is it is so cool to watch. I really, really like it, just knowing how clean that bar would be. And then you fly to Copenhagen tomorrow. Yeah, for work. And so how do you balance your work life? We've talked about all your businesses and your different projects and advocacy work and stuff like that. How do you balance off all this and again wake up with that fire in your belly?
I mean, I think the first thing I have to say is that it's it's important to understand that everyone is different, and I definitely am someone who has always enjoyed working a lot, and it's all my comfort zone is here, and it is really just being here at work, and I am lucky because I really enjoy working, but there has been times, especially in the years leading up to the bar, where we kind of went out and did a lot of projects and consulting and freelancing just to make the money that we needed to get to having this place, where I felt that, okay, this is a bit too much. I don't really enjoy it, because I was 2017, 2018, I was traveling a lot for work, and you have to be okay with sacrificing certain things like birthdays or anniversaries or holidays or these kind of things. But Alex and me, we always had a nice agreement where we always schedule, for example, our day or week, so that you're never more than 1 week away, and you're never, or more importantly, you're never more than 1 week without seeing each other, because I think that's important in a relationship. And we definitely have changed a little bit now during the pandemic, because we were stuck at home and we realized that actually it's very nice to be home as well. I mean, I do now have a sofa, so yes, I like it, but now we changed the opening hours of the bar a little bit, so we have 2 days closed, where everybody mandatory 2 days off, and then we try to, you know, make sure that nothing interferes with that, and then yeah, I think you also have to be more selective of what you do, and try not to take on too much, and yeah. But for me, I don't know, I really enjoy, you know, the kind of seeing things evolve and seeing, but obviously also other things that makes me really happy now is, you know, the seeing, for example, each of the guys, or each of the team members we have here, they have their own kind of cues and their own things that they do when they are happy, and like seeing those things, or for some of them it's the laughter, for some of them it's like dancing during the service, or for some of them it's just like the way that they move around, and this is the kind of things that makes me perhaps happier now, than before. So I think it's, yeah, it's work-life balance is different for everyone, but I think it's just important to listen to your own body. Like for me, I spend a lot of time on my day, or like my time off, I spend a lot of time, you know, working out or being outside, reading, doing things that are completely unrelated to our industry, spending time with people that doesn't work in this industry, and just getting that, you know. Also have a rule that I never work from home. So
Oh,
yeah, so I just, you know, if I work, I would rather come here, be here for 3 hours, do the job, and then I go home. So at home, I can just like,
that's a great rule. I can't have that rule, but this is my this is my office. So my office is in the back of the backyard. So my house is up there, and then this is my office. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but what's in the future? What's the next 6 to 12 months? I know Tayer Elementary just reopened, and as things open back up, I know me personally, I haven't not traveled this long in like 10 years. So I've had 2 years of no travel, which has been really, really hard, especially after being in Singapore in 2019. And so it's been very tough. What's the future for the next 6 to 12 months for you, Hold?
I don't know. I don't know. To be honest, I would enjoy just seeing the bar kind of open properly and seeing how it will take on a life, because, you know, yes, we are, now it's October. Yes, October, September. So we are 2 years and 3 months old, but half of that time we've been closed. So, you know, only now can you start to see the not the potential, but see the personality of the place, and see, you know, we started to build a really nice base of regulars, which comes in, you know, and shares their life with us. So it's really nice to see how the bar is gonna, you know, get a foothold and be working, because you can actually make progress, or make even money, or to do all the things that we want to do, because there's so many other things that we want to add to the place, you know, like because up until now it's only been about survival. It's just being, you work so hard, but there's no you know, there's no money on the other side. You just work so that you don't fall off the cliff, more or less. And, you know, we want to, there's so many things that we still want to do. We want to, you know, travel with the team. We want to go and learn more. We want to, you know, make more collaborations with people. We want to have fun, to be honest. So I don't know. A lot of people ask me when we're going to open the next one, and I was like, no, hold on. Not yet. You know, a lot of people, we get a lot of questions also why, you know, we work here, because Alex and me, we are here both full-time in service, and you know, we didn't work so hard to open our bar and not have the joy of working in it, you know. So I just want to enjoy that for a while before it's, you know, at some point I understand that, you know, physically maybe not able to be behind the bar for the next 40 years, but, you know, be a little bit selfish.
That's fair. Like I still love enjoying bartending, but there's some nights that I do, and And I'm like, the next morning, I'm just like, nope, I'm too old to be doing this. I'm going to leave this to my 22-year-old right-hand guy and let him work the bar. So, but
I mean, yeah, no, sorry.
no, you go.
I think for me, I would like to maybe. Well, I've always been very into education,
Hmm.
and I think maybe in the long term, that's the path that I want to go down, because um, I think that we really need to focus a little bit more, perhaps in that field, like create some standards and norms that are common all around the globe, and we need to just, I don't know, teach what people need to know. Not just, I mean, yes, people need to know what's the difference between this spirit and this spirit, and how you can mix with this spirit and this spirit, but people also need to know, business side of things. They need to know the legal side of things. They need to know, how to ask the right questions in an interview, or how to read a contract so that you don't sign anything that's going to screw you over later, which, trust me, I learned the hard way. So, I think these things I would like to see become more available for bartenders or people in the industry in general, not just bartenders. So I think definitely I would hope that in the span of my career that we would see something like this. But if we will, I don't know.
Do you think that with COVID, I know that in my city, it sort of happened where we've got a big gap because there's been like you said, 2 years of like no bars being open, or the sort of the culture that sort of builds young bartenders, that bartender who might be brand new to the industry and they go to a seminar or a tasting session, all of a sudden get a passion for cocktails and then start moving into that sort of realm. But we've got a really big gap of age of like that sort of early 30s, but then there's nothing till the early 20 really greenhorn sort of bartenders. Do you think that this is an opportunity for us all, like you were saying with education, to sort of reset younger bartenders and the younger generation to move in a direction that we would have liked to had as an option for ourselves when we were younger?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that I think there's never been easier to get educated in that sense, but unfortunately, also a lot of the information out there is kind of just wrong, because you have this YouTube phenomenon where you like. You don't watch the last 40 seconds of the video, that's where all the information are, or things like this. But I think, yes, definitely we need to focus on that, but we also need to, um, build a structure and build an industry that is competitive, because there's it doesn't matter how much techniques we teach people, or how many recipes we teach people, if we don't pay them properly, or if we don't take care of them, like health wise, or if we don't make sure that they can have a nice life, and uh, I know that it's easy to say, oh, but this is how it's always been, but it doesn't mean that it always needs to stay that way as well. A minimum wage is just, I mean, minimum wage is not like the general tariff, no, because minimum wage just means that it's illegal to go below, but you can go above. You can pay people more than the minimum wage, and you know, I think in general our society kind of don't value a lot of these really important professions. I'm not saying that bartenders are the most important professions, but when you look at what a nurse or a teacher makes compared to some other professions, you definitely need to up salaries. But I think in the same way that, you know, I come, yes, I know I'm very fortunate that I come from Norway, where there's a lot of structures. You have quite high minimum wage and you have these kind of securities. But I always try to fight for that also for my own teams. And I know as a business owner as well, like what it means to make those same decisions and have those same principles leading you when it's also your money you're spending, your profits you're not sacrificing but splitting out. But the thing is, it's even more important to kind of stick to those things, because I think until people can not have to worry about, paying their bills, having roof over their head, having healthcare, having education for their families, and all of these things. It's very, very hard to be truly excited about this lime versus that lime, or
Hmm.
this Manhattan versus that old fashioned. So it's parallel. Yes, we need to really put a lot of effort into educating the next generation bartenders, but we also should put equally amount of energy into making sure that their industry will be better than our industry is currently. So I don't know.
And on that note, which I think was a perfect finish, I completely agree with you. Thank you so much for your time, Mon. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
This is awesome. I can't believe that I had an opportunity because I know I've been chasing you down for a while, and I really, really
That's fine.
appreciate. It's okay. I know you're so busy. So like we talked about it today. Like, but I really want to say thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being on the show.
No, thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, enjoy Copenhagen, and I'll chat to you really soon.
Yes,
Thanks,
absolutely.
man.
Thank
Bye.
you.